There is a moment that lives inside you like a sealed room. You have never shown anyone the door. It exists somewhere between the 2 a.m. prayers you whispered into the dark ceiling and the mornings you opened your eyes and felt the weight of another day arriving without the one thing your heart has been quietly, faithfully, almost shamefully asking for. You have been kind. You have been present. You have prayed for strangers whose faces you will never see again, given money you could not afford to give, spoken words of life into people who were crumbling, and held yourself together with the grace of someone who has learned, painfully, that the world will not hold you back. You have done all of this. And still, the love that is real, the love that is safe, the love that does not come with conditions buried underneath the surface, has not walked through your door. And in the silence of your most honest moments, you have asked the question you were almost too afraid to say out loud. God, did you forget about me? He did not forget you. He was watching every single second of every single moment. Not from a distance, not the way someone watches a movie they have already seen. He was watching the way a father watches a child learning to walk, present in every trembling step, every almost fall, every small triumph that the rest of the world was too distracted to notice. The tears you swallowed in the shower so no one could hear you, he heard every single one. The prayers you prayed when you were so tired you could barely form a sentence, he caught every fragmented word. Nothing you did in secret was invisible to him. Nothing you carried alone was carried without his knowledge. The loneliness you have been living inside was never a sign of his absence. It was a sign of his architecture. Here is what the enemy has worked tirelessly to keep hidden from you. You are not someone who stumbled into a life of faith. You are a chosen one. You are the black sheep of your bloodline, the one who felt different before you had the language to explain why. The one who could walk into a room full of people who shared your last name and still feel like a foreigner in a country that was supposed to be home. You were not broken by that feeling. You were being separated, because the love that is being prepared for you is not a casual connection, not a convenience, not a compromise dressed in the right clothes at the right time. You were created for covenant. And covenant love is not stumbled upon. It is not swiped right or found at a party or engineered by algorithms. It is orchestrated by a God who has been planning this moment since before either of you drew your first breath. That is why in the trilogy, The 3 Keys to a Prosperous Life, the link is in the pinned comment, I explain exactly how your acts of secret obedience are not random moments scattered across your timeline. They are seeds with addresses. They were sent somewhere, they reach someone, and what God wants you to understand today, right now, in the quiet of wherever you are reading this, is that one of those seeds saved a life, not metaphorically, literally. While you were praying for a stranger, while you were giving the offering that cost you something real, while you were speaking the word of encouragement that you almost kept to yourself because you were too tired and too drained to give anything else, your obedience crossed the spiritual realm and landed on the person who was designed to stand beside you for the rest of your life. Think back now, not to the dramatic scenes, not to the moments that made you feel like a hero, but to the quiet ones, the ones you have almost forgotten because they felt small at the time. A prayer you prayed in a parking lot for someone you would never see again, a financial gift that left your account thinner than it should have been, a message you almost did not send because you were not sure if it would matter. You did not know it then. There was no thunder, no confirmation, no visible sign that anything had crossed the invisible. But in one of those unremarkable moments of faithfulness, your obedience reached across the distance between 2 lives and touched the person who was spiraling. They were in a pit so deep they could not see the top, suicidal thoughts, complete despair, the quiet conviction that no one was coming and nothing would ever change, and your faithfulness became the rope that pulled them back to the surface. You saved your soulmate without knowing their name. This is not a beautiful idea. This is the architecture of divine design. God does not operate in coincidences. He does not casually scatter souls across the earth and hope they collide. He builds timelines with surgical precision, and he uses the obedience of his chosen ones as instruments in the lives of other chosen ones, weaving two stories together across the invisible before they ever share a room. Every prayer you prayed that felt unanswered was actually a thread being sewn into a tapestry you have not seen yet. Every act of faithfulness that felt pointless, every moment you chose obedience when no one was watching and no one would ever know, was being recorded and deployed. You were not going through your season alone. You were going through it as an active force in the life of someone you had not met yet. The reason God delayed the meeting is not the reason the enemy told you. The enemy is a precise liar. He does not come at you with obviously false accusations. He wraps his lies in just enough truth to make them sting. He whispered that you were too damaged, that you were too much for some people and not enough for others, that something fundamental was wrong with you, something unfixable, something that would always push love away before it could fully land. He pointed to every almost relationship, every connection that began with warmth and ended with distance, and he said, "See, this is evidence. This is the pattern. This is who you are." Those were not observations. They were engineered attacks specifically designed to make you abandon your post before the promise arrived at your door. The real reason for the delay is far more beautiful than anything the enemy allowed you to consider. They were not ready. And in the most honest, most uncomfortable version of this truth, neither were you. God does not bring two unfinished works together and call it a masterpiece. He finishes both separately in the fire of their own season, and then he brings them face to face when the timing can hold the weight of what he is doing. While you were being refined through loneliness, they were being healed from the wound that almost ended them. While you were learning to be whole without a partner, learning that your value does not live inside someone else's choice to stay, they were being delivered from the generational patterns, the inherited wounds, the invisible chains passed down through their bloodline that would have poisoned everything you were about to build together. The delay was not punishment, it was precision. Not one day was wasted, not one season was accidental, and now the season is shifting. What is happening in the spiritual realm right now is not visible to the natural eye, but it is as real as the ground beneath your feet. Something is moving. Circles are being rearranged with the focused intent of a God who does not move casually. Wrong people are being removed from both of your lives, sometimes painfully, sometimes in ways that still ache, to create the space that what is coming actually needs. If you have felt unusual upheaval lately, relationships ending without clear explanations, a pull toward a new place or a different community, a strange and almost irrational peace about your singleness that defies every logical reason you should feel anxious, that is not chaos. That is not your life falling apart. That is God clearing the runway with the focused efficiency of someone who knows exactly what is about to land. He moves with the precision of a master architect who has been planning this moment for years, holding every variable in place, arranging every detail with the kind of care that only eternal perspective can sustain. The upheaval you are feeling is not the end of something. It is the preparation for something. The ground is being cleared. The path is being straightened. And everything that is falling away right now, every relationship that could not survive this season, every door that closed in your face, was never meant to accompany you into what is next. Let them go. Let them go without the guilt the enemy wants you to carry. What God removes, he removes with purpose. When you meet them, you will know. Not the way the world says you will know, not the racing heart and the chemical rush that mimics certainty but fades in 6 months, not the desperate hope that makes you overlook what your spirit is quietly trying to tell you. You will know the way your lungs know how to breathe, the way your body knows when it has finally come home after a very long journey. There will be a peace in you that does not need to be argued into existence, a settling in your spirit that feels less like excitement and more like relief. The relief of something finally clicking into place after years of wondering if it ever would. Your spirit will recognize their spirit the way a key recognizes the lock it was made for, not because you convinced yourself, not because the timing was convenient, but because God does not speak in ambiguity when he is moving two people into covenant. There will be no red flags you are silencing, no quiet voice you are ignoring because the loneliness has made you too tired to listen, no part of you performing the piece while the rest of you holds its breath and waits for the other shoe to drop. This will be different. The clarity of it will be almost disorienting after so many years of confusion. You will not need to chase. You will not need to convince. You will not need to shrink yourself into a version that fits inside their comfort zone. You will be fully seen, fully known in the places you have kept most hidden, and you will not be asked to be anything other than exactly what you already are. That kind of love is not common. That is why God protected you from accepting substitutions. The difference between what you have carried and what others have settled for is something deep in the spiritual architecture of who you are. The people around you growing up, the ones who built their lives on connection that looked normal from the outside but felt hollow underneath, they were operating from a different frequency. You could feel it even when you were young. Something in you refused to accept the version of love that required you to pretend. Something in you pushed back against the unspoken rules of your family system, the patterns passed down like heirlooms, the ways of relating that everyone accepted because they had always been that way. You were the one who asked why. You were the one who felt the weight of things that others seemed to absorb without reaction. You were not broken. You were sensitive to truth in a way that made the counterfeit unbearable. That sensitivity, the very thing others tried to cure you of, is actually the spiritual gift that will make your covenant love possible. The people who told you that you were too intense, too deep, too much to handle, were not giving you feedback. They were revealing their own limitation. They could not hold what you carry, not because you were too heavy, but because they were not designed for it. Your person is being formed in the same fire. They know what it is to feel different. They know what it is to love in a way that people around them did not understand. They have been lonely in the same specific way you have been lonely, not the loneliness of isolation, but the loneliness of being surrounded by people and still feeling unseen. When you find each other, the recognition will not just be romantic. It will be the recognition of two people who have been through something real and made it through to the other side. As I teach deeply in the material, the 3 keys to a prosperous life, I left the link for you in the pinned comment. This pain is not without design. The loneliness of the black sheep, the specific ache of the chosen one who has never quite fit, is not a wound without purpose. It is the excavation of space inside you, a depth being carved out so that when the real thing arrives, you have the capacity to hold it without destroying it. Shallow people cannot sustain deep love. The fire you have walked through was not burning you down. It was burning out everything inside you that would have sabotaged the very thing you have been praying for. Every layer of insecurity, every false version of yourself, every borrowed belief about love that came from watching broken models, it was being stripped away so that what you bring into this covenant is real, is whole, is genuinely yours. Think about Joseph for a moment, not as a distant biblical character, but as a mirror. He was his father's beloved, and because of that, his brothers could not stand the sight of him. The anointing on his life was so visible, it became an irritant to everyone around him. They did not hate Joseph because he was bad. They hated him because the light in him made their own darkness visible, and that is unbearable for people who are not ready to face what lives inside them. They stripped him of his coat. They threw him into a pit. They sold him into slavery. And every single act of cruelty, every moment of betrayal that must have felt like the complete unraveling of everything he had been promised, was actually God rerouting him toward the position that would save an entire generation. The pit was not the end of Joseph's story. The pit was the beginning of his promotion. David was anointed king and then sent back to the field to watch sheep. The gap between the promise and the fulfillment was filled with giants, with caves, with a king who was trying to kill him, with years of running and hiding and crying out to God in the darkness of places no one else saw. The Psalms were not written from a palace. They were written from a wilderness. The depth of David's worship came directly from the depth of David's suffering. And that worship became the weapon that sustained him through every season until the promise finally took its full shape. What you have written in your own private psalms, the prayers you have prayed in your car, in your bathroom, in the silence of your 3 a.m., they are not disappearing into the air. They are becoming the very thing that prepares you for what is coming. And Jesus, who came to his own people and was not received, who healed the sick and was accused of working for the enemy, who loved without condition and was crucified for it, who was misunderstood by the very ones he was sent to rescue. He understands what it is to carry a light that the world around you cannot hold without recoiling. If you have ever felt like your love was too much, your faith was too strange, your hope was too persistent for the environment you grew up in, you are in remarkable company. The ones who carry the most are always the ones who are most misunderstood. The friction was never evidence that you were wrong. It was evidence that you were carrying something too alive for a dead environment to contain. The hidden envy disguised as advice is one of the most specific kinds of pain you have absorbed over the years, and it deserves to be named for exactly what it is. The people who told you that you were too sensitive were not worried about you. They were threatened by your sensitivity because it reflected their own emotional numbness back to them. The ones who warned you not to dream too big were not protecting you from disappointment. They were protecting themselves from the discomfort of watching you succeed in ways they had decided were impossible. Every word that came wrapped in the language of concern but landed in your chest like a stone was not wisdom. It was projection. It was the voice of someone who had already surrendered their own promise, speaking authority over yours. You do not owe that voice your future. You have spent years in environments where the unspoken rule was conformity, where fitting in was the only currency that bought you safety, and where standing out, even unintentionally, even simply by being who you were, cost you something. The dinner table where everyone was laughing and you were sitting in the middle of it feeling completely alone. The family gathering where the conversation stayed safely on the surface and anyone who tried to go deeper was redirected with a joke or a subject change. The collective silence around the things that actually mattered, the wounds no one named, the patterns no one questioned, the cycles that repeated themselves generation after generation because questioning them felt like a betrayal of something that had no name but enormous power. You were not imagining it. The pressure was real. The loneliness inside the home was the specific, suffocating kind that no one outside can understand. But here is what God was doing even in that environment. He was showing you exactly what the covenant you are walking into is not going to look like. Every hollow dinner, every surface-level connection that left you emptier than before, every relationship built on pretense rather than truth, was a negative image, a photographic inverse of the real thing being prepared for you. You were learning in the most painful classroom available the precise texture of what you refuse to accept. You were being formed into someone who cannot be satisfied by anything less than genuine, not because you are difficult or demanding, but because you have tasted enough counterfeit to know it by smell. That discernment is not your damage. That discernment is your protection. The protective removal is something God does that feels in the moment like catastrophe. when he begins to clear the people and the ties that are connected to the old version of your story, when relationships that have defined your life for years suddenly shift or dissolve, when the community you belong to no longer feels like the right fit, when even the physical environments you used to inhabit start to feel like they belong to a chapter that is closing. The temptation is to interpret this as loss. The grief is real. Do not minimize the grief. But underneath the grief, if you press past the surface pain and go deep enough, there is something else. There is a quiet knowing that what is ending could not have come with you, that the hand releasing it is the same hand that is building what comes next. God does not remove what he removes carelessly. He removes it precisely because he sees the full blueprint, and he knows what the new structure cannot coexist with. And now we arrive at the warning that is really a mercy. Do not look back. The story of Lot's wife is one of the most quietly devastating in all of Scripture, and it is devastating specifically because she was so close. She had already been removed from the destruction. The angels had already pulled her and her family out by the hand. She was steps away from the life that was waiting on the other side, and she turned, not to run back, just to look. And the looking was enough to end her story before it could begin again. The salt is not a punishment in the symbolic sense. The salt is what happens when the longing for the old approval, for the old warmth of the familiar, even when that familiar was killing you, freezes you at the threshold. The old fire was false. It was warm because it was burning something that was never supposed to sustain you. Do not let the memory of that warmth convince you to trade what is coming for one more moment in what has already ended. The faces of the people who let you down, the relationships that felt like almost home before they revealed themselves as something else entirely, the versions of love you accepted because you were tired, and because being chosen by something imperfect felt better than the silence of waiting for something real. Do not chase those images into the past. What God has ahead of you cannot be entered facing backward. The new thing requires your full forward attention, your complete expectation, your whole heart angled toward the horizon rather than the rear view. Every time the enemy tries to pull you back into the grief of what did not work, every time he shows you the highlight reel of the almost love and asks if you made a mistake by letting go, recognize the move. He is not trying to give you perspective. He is trying to freeze you at the threshold. Solitude is being redeemed in this season. Not the solitude that was imposed on you, not the loneliness that came from being misunderstood and excluded, but a chosen solitude, an intentional turning inward that is producing something extraordinary in you. The person you are becoming in this season, the one who has learned to sit with themselves without flinching, who has discovered what their own voice sounds like without the noise of a relationship to fill the space, who has found that there is a peace available to them that does not require another person to generate it, that person is exactly who your covenant partner needs to meet. You cannot give wholeness from a place of emptiness. You cannot build something that lasts on the foundation of mutual neediness. God is making you whole, separately, precisely because the love you are walking into needs two whole people to sustain it. The generational chains that ran through your bloodline, the patterns of love that looked like control, the cycles of emotional absence dressed as strength, the inherited wounds that taught you impossible things about what you deserved and what you should expect from the people closest to you, they are being broken. Not slowly, not incrementally, one small shift at a time. They are being broken with the decisive authority of a God who looks at the sins of the fathers and says, "Not this generation. You are the fracture point. You are the one who the enemy tried hardest to stop because he understood what your breaking free would mean for every name that comes after yours. The freedom you are walking into is not just yours. It is your children's. It is your grandchildren's. The healing happening in you right now is the most generationally significant work God has done in your family line, and it is happening quietly, invisibly, in the privacy of your own surrender. The new tribe is coming. The connections that are ahead of you are not replacements for what you lost. They are something entirely different in category, people who are walking in the same direction, who have been through the fire of their own refining, who carry the same values not as performance, but as genuine interior reality. You will recognize them the way you recognize a kindred spirit, not by their resume or their social presentation, but by something that happens in your spirit when your spirits make contact. The right community does not require you to manage yourself before entering. The right community is a place where the version of you that has survived everything you have survived is not just tolerated, but genuinely celebrated. That community is not a distant fantasy. It is being assembled. The connections are already in motion, already being drawn toward you by the same hand that has been orchestrating everything else. And your soulmate, the one whose life your faithfulness once reached across the invisible to save without either of you knowing it was happening, they are in a season of their own completion right now. They are being prepared with the same intentionality that has been shaping you. They are being healed from the wounds that would have made them incapable of receiving what you carry. They are being delivered from the patterns that would have poisoned what you are about to build. They are learning in their own wilderness the same lessons you have been learning in yours, that wholeness is not found in another person, that peace is not something a relationship can generate, that they are enough in themselves, and that this completeness is exactly what makes them ready for what God is bringing. Two whole people, refined separately in two different fires, walking toward each other from two different directions, arriving at the same place at exactly the same time, because a God who does not operate in accidents planned the intersection. The secret acts that felt invisible were never invisible. The prayers that seemed to dissolve before reaching the ceiling were already at the throne before you finished speaking them. The tears that felt wasted were every one of them collected and recorded by a God who counts what the world ignores. The faithfulness that no one saw, the obedience that cost you something real in seasons when you were already running low, the decision to keep going when the logic of quitting was overwhelming, none of it was lost. All of it was seeds. All of it was being held in the hands of a God who understands harvest in a way that linear time cannot contain. And the harvest of your secret faithfulness is not just a love story. It is a testimony. It is a demonstration to every person who watches your life that God rewards those who seek Him, that the waiting was not wasted, that the promise was always real, and that the one who endures to the end receives something worth every single day of the enduring. Stay alert, stay expectant. Do not let the length of the waiting convince you that the promise has expired. Do not let the enemy use the very patience that has been forming you as evidence that nothing is coming. The silence before the answer is not the absence of God. It is the final preparation. The stillness before the moment is not emptiness. It is fullness holding its breath. Your divine appointment is not a distant hope you are managing from a safe distance to protect yourself from disappointment. It is an imminent reality moving toward you with the inevitability of everything God has ever promised and then fulfilled. Watch, stay ready. The love that is coming for you is not going to look like anything the enemy showed you to make you settle. It is going to look like exactly what God designed it to be, and when it arrives, you will understand, with a clarity that settles into your bones, that every single day of the waiting was worth it. If you study the trilogy, The 3 Keys to a Prosperous Life, which link is in the pinned comment, you will see that the entire architecture of a prosperous life, including the love you have been waiting for, begins with understanding your identity as a chosen one and the spiritual authority embedded in your acts of secret faithfulness. Everything you have read today is not inspiration, it is activation. God saw every prayer, He recorded every tear, He deployed every seed. And the harvest is no longer on the horizon, it is at the door. Go to the pinned comment, access the 3 keys to a prosperous life, and let God show you in full detail how to walk into everything He has been building for you. Your story does not end in waiting. It begins in the promise that was always yours.